Hi, Bonnie.
How are you?
I'm excellent. I'm super happy to be here with you today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, uh for everyone that's listening is that um I guess I've just been having a lot of stuff sent into my mind and my friends' minds, and just feeling a lot of shifts, and um the amount of synchronicities is just goofy, and everything just seems to be very magnetized, and so many things falling into place, and also so many things that were in place being shaken out of place. So uh, I felt like I wanted to speak to somebody that speaks to other beings, all sorts of beings, particularly ones that maybe don't live on Earth,
Mm.
and just kind of talk with them and discuss, just the state of being and consciousness, and um, just really keep on coming back to this idea of that we're all just one. um and I just really want to uh have people come on here and explain that because I want people to feel that, and I don't uh, we write songs about that, and we channel songs about that, and we try and get that's how we kind of communicate, but it's all from just intuition, and I don't feel like my guides, at least at this point, I don't know. I just feel them. I don't know what they, like it always seems like this very magical thing for a lot of other people, especially you and what I've listened to about you. And I'd just like to know, yeah, more about your experience and what it's like. And you've been doing it for so long. And I would just like to know your experience with these beings, and yeah, just start there, I guess.
Yeah, that's a great place to start, Bonnie.
Thanks.
I loved what you said about oneness. Thank you.
Yeah,
It's really the foundation of my work.
cool.
Is yeah. Um, I remember. Oh, This is a funny story to tell a musician.
Yeah.
Um, Kenny Loggins had a song out, I don't know, like almost 30 years ago, I think. And the theme was oneness, and it was right at the time. I can't remember the name of the song, I'm sorry.
No, that's
Um,
okay.
and it was right when I was becoming conscious of my direct voice channeling abilities and conscious of connection with other beings. Right? And I think that's what you're talking about here.
Yeah.
We're all connected.
Yeah,
There's
well, I'm sorry, but yeah, I guess just to for you is I feel like I woke up to the concept of waking up,
mm,
and but I'm like struggling through the like lack mentality,
mm,
and and the
mm.
trauma stuff, and I'm just like
Mm.
you've done that. So yeah, I guess please continue. Yeah, I'm so excited to hear this.
So yeah, Kenny Loggins had this song out, and it was about oneness, and it really grabbed me, right? And I noticed that it grabbed me, and I didn't even fully understand the concept. And then this was in the mid to late 90s, right? I had my first conscious contact experience in November of 1996. I
Can you,
was
yeah,
yeah.
can you tell that story,
I'll
please?
tell the story.
Yay.
Yeah. So I was living in Chicago. I was waitressing. I grew up in the Chicago area, so that's actually, and that's a source of connection for me as well. There's something about Chicago, the collective consciousness of Chicago,
Oh, wow.
and a portal that exists over Lake Michigan that facilitates connection, contact, and awakening.
So cool.
Yeah. So I would often meet people who tell me they'd moved to Chicago. They didn't really know why they had moved there. And then they'd have these big awakening experiences and shifts in their consciousness. And it just really became clear to me over time that there's something there that facilitates connection and contact, just as there are in many other places on the planet, right? Like, but that is something I noticed about Chicago.
Cool.
So I was waitressing and acting. So I trained as an actress, went to school for acting, acted, directed, produced throughout most of my 20s. And then I had a pretty dramatic breakup with someone.
Okay.
Yeah, right. So had to
Yeah.
find, yeah. I
Like
was
a twin flame kind of thing,
Oh,
or
yeah, she definitely was
okay.
a soulmate. Yes, she was
Okay.
a soulmate. Yeah,
Yeah.
is. I'll say she is a
Okay.
soulmate, right? Because she
Yeah.
still exists.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
still exist.
Yeah.
Our relationship is just in another format right now.
Yeah.
So when she and I separated in this very dramatic way, and I felt completely flipped upside down at 29 years of age, my desire to seek, which I'd always had, right? I'd read tarot cards for years and played with crystals. And I mean, when I was 8 years old, I would lie in bed, and I didn't realize it at the time, but I would go into a lucid state.
So
So,
cool.
and I'd start to have a conversation with someone in that lucid state.
Wow.
And I didn't know who they were, but I could feel them and all of this love and all of this information. And I was raised Catholic, right? So from
Right.
my perspective, I was about to find out who God actually was,
Yeah.
right?
For
And
sure.
then it would just stop.
Okay.
So part of that is because I was 8 years old. I didn't have the intellectual maturity, emotional maturity to understand what I was doing, what I was trying to access there. And also part of it was you cannot adequately play the game of separation if you have a visceral understanding of connection. Right. So
Okay.
here in the third dimension, we play the illusion of separation, right? You are in a separate body. I'm in a separate body. Everyone is separate. We have separate genders and races and religions, and on and on and on it goes, right? And it reinforces the notion that we are alone, we're individual, and that we are not one.
Right.
And part of the game we're playing right now is coming into that kind of density of separation and then giving ourselves permission to remember at some point, oh, we are one. Right. So for me, that remembrance came on this November night in 1996 when I was sitting with a very dear friend of mine, Amy, who also read tarot cards. Right. And she was telling me about she'd made a new friend. This person was channeling. This person had direct connection with her spirit guide. And immediately there was just this excitement I felt. And I said, let's do it. Like, let's try.
Yeah,
And she
yeah.
said, yeah. She said she had been trying and she'd gotten some like drawings. She's very clairvoyant. She sees like just incredible things. So she'd been doing it in a very visual way. I said, okay, let's try it together. So we just sat and we meditated just for a very short amount of time. And she and I love each other very much, Amy. So there was just already this like yummy love feeling in the room, right?
Yeah.
Even though I was heartbroken and depressed, right?
Yeah.
Right? But there was all this love. And then suddenly I felt slash knew
Yeah.
slash heard a voice. Didn't see anything, felt, knew, heard. That's kind of my strengths.
Yeah.
This yellow being who told me that he loved me unconditionally and directed that feeling to me. And it was an experience of love unlike anything I had ever had in this life before,
So cool.
right?
Yeah.
And I knew he was a main spirit guide, and I knew his name started with an M, and I identified him as a male, right?
Yeah.
He felt male to me.
Yeah.
They're not really male or female, right?
Yeah.
They're non-binary, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're really all that's the truth of all of
Yeah.
us as well, right? We
Yeah,
just
that's yeah, totally. That's what's so interesting to me is we yeah, is our separateness, and I guess we can talk about that later, but how it came to be that we are so separate and believe in such duality and all of these things, and is this unique onto Earth or
It is unique to Earth, and
okay.
my memories tell me. So I'm talking about past life memory here.
Yeah.
So I have access to a lot of my records and experiences
Yeah.
just through my channeling work, right? That
Right.
facilitated. So that's what happened next, right? I
Okay,
connected
sorry.
with, no,
Yes,
it's
please
okay. I
continue.
connected with, you're heading right where I was going
Okay,
anyway. So
okay,
I
sorry.
love it. I'm wearing one of my Atlantean stones
Oh,
to
cool.
remind us to talk
Yeah.
about Atlantis, and you already went
I
there.
wrote that down. That's so
Yes.
funny. I was like, I need to talk to you about Atlantis. Okay,
Yes,
cool. Perfect.
absolutely. Yes. Well, last night I was like, where do I know Bonnie? Oh, Atlantis. So,
Oh, cool. I can't wait to hear it.
so I had this first experience of conscious contact was brief. It was not even a minute,
Oh,
right?
wow. Okay.
Because that was all I could hold at the
Yeah,
time,
for sure.
right?
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah.
And I think that's part of the issue. Like people perceive wanting contact and experiences, and the expectation is that it should be very lengthy, very dramatic. Like they should go from putting their finger on the keyboard of a piano to playing an entire concerto,
I
right?
love that. Yeah,
And
that's
that's my journey has been step by step by step to the point where I direct voice channel very easily today. But that
yeah.
is not something I could do 25 years ago. 25 years ago, I could barely hold my freaking vibration for
Yeah.
10 seconds to have a
Yeah.
connection with a sixth dimensional being,
I
right?
love that. That's a really, really cool way to explain it. Because yeah, I think it's frustrating for people because it seems like for people like you, it's like, well, it's just so easy for everyone else. But
Mm,
cool.
yeah. So what happened then after that night was I just went through a very radical transformation similar to what I have heard from people who have near death experiences.
Okay. Okay.
So I was completely changed.
And there was not. So that's so interesting. Yeah, I'm so curious
No,
about this near death experience. Okay.
yeah, there was
Cool.
no actual near death
It
experience,
just
right?
happened.
It
Okay.
just happened. And
Wow.
I
So
woke up,
cool.
yeah, I woke up the next morning still Nora, right? I
Yeah.
didn't change my identity, but Nora with a completely new perspective on reality,
Yeah.
which allowed me to start facilitating accessing my past life memories and records and playing with energy. And I was waitressing at the time at this crazy crab shack and barbecue in Chicago called Bub City, which seated like 600 people
Oh my
when it was
god.
at capacity. Yeah, it was a huge restaurant.
Wow.
And I'm walking around the restaurant like, a friend of mine hit his head, and I'm like putting my hand on his head and healing his head wound, right?
Yeah.
And waiting tables and hearing voices. And it
Jeez.
was, yes.
So all of this, so it was on. Does it come and go?
So then it did, right?
Okay.
Then it felt,
Sorry.
no, it's fine.
I just want to know everything.
Yeah, no, I felt like I had no control over a lot of it, and I was feeling like when I was consciously channeling. So Amy and then Wendy, the other friend, and I, the three of us started getting together on a very regular basis and became very dear friends, right? So we would channel together way late. We all were waitressing, and then we get together at midnight and channel till 4 in the morning, right? And multiple times a week, and we're having all these memories. And this is when the Pleiadians showed up for me as well,
Okay.
and for all of us. So the three of us together had that Pleiadian connection as well. And I remember standing in the kitchen of the restaurant one night because I'd just gotten a piece of information about somebody I was serving, and it was distressing, a piece of trauma, a trauma piece about the
Right.
couple I was interacting with, because she was kind of sending out a request for healing energetically, right? So I stopped, I just stood in the kitchen, and it was like super busy and crazy, and I just yelled, "Shut up," right? Like,
Oh
and
my
all
god.
the people I worked with knew what I was experiencing, because
Yeah.
I'm not quiet about anything ever,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
I'm a total open book. Yeah, here's what's going on with me. So they were
Yeah.
just like, yeah, whatever, right? And I very clearly heard, we're always transmitting to you. It's up to you whether or not to listen.
Oh wow. Okay, that's so cool.
So, Bonnie, they're always transmitting to you.
Yeah.
Always. Your connection is already there. It's already established. This is true for all of us, right? It's just a matter of putting ourselves in the heart space fully to receive. And you do receive all the time. And
Yeah.
yes, your music is your conduit. And in some way, I hear you devaluing that connection when you talk about my experience of channeling. But I can't sit down and write a book. And that's one of the things I want to do, right? And I look at all this channeled information that comes out via book form and I'm like, not a good enough channel, right? Like we
Yeah.
all go through this.
Yeah.
And it's part of separation, right? We compare and contrast and
Totally.
yes. And also I so get that desire, that curiosity to know who it is you're hanging out with, right?
Yeah.
Like to have those identities and those names. For me, it was just a really a matter as well of choosing to completely suspend my disbelief and just
Yeah.
go with it. Whatever I was getting, go with that information, go with the sense of who they were.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And when you were like channeling with your friends, what did that look like? Like how did you guys do that together?
So that's a great question. It looked like lots of coffee and and
Cool.
cigarettes and music on in the background. Like it was total play, right?
Yeah.
None of us thought, oh, I'm doing this because I want to go have a career as a channel,
Right.
right? It was like three chicks in our late 20s, early 30s hanging out, being as witchy as we
Yeah.
possibly could together. And we would do readings for one another. And then we started to bring people in, right? So
Cool.
when we would bring people in, then we would channel for them. And it was sort of like this tag team channeling experience,
Cool.
right? So we each supported the other in doing it, and support is huge,
Yeah.
right? Support is, I think
Yeah.
it's to be able to do anything, we have to have support.
Yeah. Well, I think for me why this is coming up now is that I just like uh broke, like I had hammered up wood over the door of being able to be supported, and like just recently like pulled off that, so I'm like ready. When you are ready to be supported, the amount of like support, it's just a, it's a crazy thing. So I'm just like, yeah, I just want, if you're not ready to be supported, you're not really supporting anyone. I thought I had been this whole
Mm,
time, but it was just like, oh, I can help, oh, I can help, here's a way to help.
mm,
But now I'm like, oh, if I'm healthy and I am, actually accepting support, I can actually support. So yeah, this is
yes,
amazing.
and support to a greater degree,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because you're always, I mean, no matter how guarded you are, I can never imagine you as not truly being supportive. But I
Oh.
totally hear. I mean,
Thanks.
you're such a love, Bonnie. Like you just like you and you have such fairy energy.
Oh wow.
The fairies were also
Thank
very
you.
present with me today, talking to me about you
Oh
and some of
cool.
your origins in the fairy realms. So I should be clear when I speak about the fairies, because we're
Yeah.
programmed to see them as these tiny
I
winged
don't know
little
much.
beings.
Yeah, I don't know much about fairies because I'm just open. Like I've just opened up in the last. I closed it off specifically
Mm,
with drugs, like because I didn't get what was going on and it was
mm,
scary.
mm.
Just yeah, a little background is like when I was like 16, I went to the loony bin because of these things that seem a little crazy.
Yeah.
But I knew it and I felt it, and then I did drugs to keep it away because I was like, I'm not supposed to feel this way. And then recently, just like I was like, this is real though. I can just tell, like it, and having friends and people like you, and just I'm like safe and everything's fine. But I just this stuff is real, and blocking it didn't help. So I think embracing it is the only way to live. So I'm brand new to it, so I don't know anything about fairies. Please tell me.
So we're kind of programmed to see them as these tiny, winged, little mischievous beings, right?
Yeah.
So they're actually fifth and sixth dimensional beings, meaning their
Okay.
energy is gigantic compared to the energy we express as third dimensional beings. Um, and there's just a huge kind of umbrella of beings that fall into that term fairy, right? I
Yeah.
see all the mythical beings that we're aware of on planet Earth, elves and gnomes and dragons and pixies
Yeah.
and brownies and centaurs and right on and on. They kind of all fall into this fairy realm, this realm of existence. And the fairies vibrationally and genetically are closer to us humans than any other beings in existence
Okay.
because they vibrate on a fifth dimensional frequency, which is the vibration that our higher selves vibrate at. And we are in the process of downloading that fifth dimensional vibration into our third dimensional bodies.
Okay.
Okay, so that's my take on ascension. I know that you were
Okay.
interested in talking
Yeah.
about it. Yeah.
So that's awesome. So okay, so it's so the third dimension is what we are like our the way we can like sense, taste, smell, sight, all of that generally is like third dimension. And then
I
can you
see, yeah, I see them as rules, right? So there's
okay.
rules for every dimension, and every dimension is really just it's a level of consciousness,
Okay,
right?
cool. Yeah.
So it's not a location outside of us,
Yeah, cool. Thank you for
which
saying that.
and it's so interesting because as I have so I've been a direct voice channel now for over 25 years. But I long before that then was doing other kinds of intuitive work with tarot and right. So I've had many different definitions and understandings and interpretations of all of this
Yeah.
going back from when I first started to
Yeah.
where I'm at today. And who knows where I'll be a decade
Right.
from now in my beliefs.
Right.
So I used to see the dimensions as way far away, right? Like
Right.
super far away,
Yeah.
because I was perceiving it from my third dimensional consciousness,
Right.
which tells you if there are numbers, you go up.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. That's so funny.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the rules for the third dimension are right, matter is solid.
Yeah.
Time is linear, right?
Yeah.
Yes, the senses that you talked about, right? Our main senses in our bodies, those are connected to our third dimensional experience, right? So we have these rules and
Okay.
scientific rules and physics and structure that define the third dimension.
Okay.
Actually, my experience and work has told me and shown me that we are currently transiting through the fourth dimension,
Right.
meaning we're
Yeah.
playing with fourth dimensional concepts in our own consciousness.
Which and those are sorry, I'm making this a little I'm like I want to see you bigger. Okay. So and can you explain that the fourth dimension?
Yes. So primarily the fourth dimension breaks the illusion that time is linear.
Cool.
So this is why time is like, what the, right?
Yeah.
For the last, especially for the last decade,
Yeah.
since the winter solstice of 2012.
Okay. Yeah. So okay. I'm
Yeah.
hearing yeah, I'm hearing a lot of stuff about that solstice. So this is cool to hear more about it.
Yes.
And the
What
shift from there.
yes, that shift that occurred on the
So
winter
that was
solstice.
the fourth dimension. That was the upload of the fourth dimension.
Yeah, I we were already beginning to kind of play around in it, but the winter solstice of 2012 really gave us all access to begin to play with time and matter in different ways. So, in the fourth dimension, matter absolutely can still be solid, but it
Yeah.
also can be porous. It's
Okay.
both,
Yeah.
which is why we're accelerating through our manifestation process and bringing things about more quickly here on planet Earth because matter is not as dense as it used to be.
Okay.
So I see the fourth dimension as fourth dimensional consciousness is
Yeah.
like it's like a whiteboard where you can throw onto it the rules of the third dimension or the rules of the fifth dimension.
Oh,
and
wow.
play between those realms. The way
Okay.
we're playing with this in our bodies is we have always been our fifth dimensional consciousness. We've always been our higher selves. This is the truth of who we are. We are source energy. We are love incarnate. This is our identity. This is the source of our value. It's the source of everything for us, right?
Yeah.
We could just sit here and do nothing the rest of our lives and be completely valuable because we exist,
Yeah.
which allows us to access oneness.
Right.
If you suddenly get that everyone else truly has value simply due to the nature of their existence,
Yeah.
then we start to create systems on this world that takes care of everyone, right?
Yeah.
We start to
Totally.
create policies and change and begin to integrate with one another. We heal racism and homophobia and transphobia and anti-Semitism and on and on. You know, the list is endless of the distortions of fear that are manifesting as hate that we are in
Yeah.
the process of healing due to oneness. And part of this is the integration of our fifth dimensional consciousness. So on the winter solstice of 2012, all of our blueprints for incarnating, all of our contracts, everything expired.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So the way the game had been playing on planet Earth up until that point, at least going back as long as my memory will let me go back, and I can't even put a number on that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Going back to the seeding of this planet with extraterrestrial life forms, right? By extraterrestrial life forms, if that's what you want to believe.
Yeah. No, yes. I do.
And you tuning
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. Everyone does.
Well, someone
Oh,
might be saying, what did she just
no. I
say?
mean, no, this is what's interesting is that this information, it's interesting, but it's not shocking, is the same information um across all of the people I'm talking to. That I just This is the first time I've talked to. This is right where you're supposed to be. You're saying obviously, is exactly what needs to be said. But what's interesting is that the people that identify as strictly, like, or not strictly, but identify as mediums, and the people that are abductees, contactees, and psychic I mean, everyone has been talking about some form of this, but everyone's kind of waking up to the fifth dimension idea.
Mhm,
So it's so interesting that it's just what you're saying is tying it all together, because it's what
mhm.
everyone's feeling. They're just not really looking at they're not looking at the oneness and being like, oh, if I'm getting this, that means other people are getting it, and people don't realize that everyone is a
Everyone's
channel.
getting it.
Yeah, it's just
Everyone's doing this.
yeah. So
Everyone.
I think this is exactly important. I think it's great. It's great news. It's
Yeah,
great
it
news all
is.
around. But
It is.
when you say contracts, that's something I'm
Mm,
like, we all chose to be here.
mhm,
And did the other beings choose to be where they are?
mhm. Yeah.
Okay. And what one question I have is, if we chose to be here, was it this system of like this system of just like gender, race, all of these weird things that is just is based on duality. Like, it's fine to have a gender, but it's not versus something else. Everything's
Yep.
fine, obviously, but it seems like this duality, this need for making things the most whatever
Winning.
evil. Yeah,
We're
and
winning.
yeah,
Dominance.
yeah,
Dominance, right? And
yeah.
winning.
And yeah, is that what, like, did we make that? And why?
No, it
Okay.
didn't start on planet Earth,
Oh,
right?
okay, cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's actually a byproduct of the third dimensional existence. In the
Oh,
third
wow.
dimension, you quote unquote get to play in duality, right? I put that
Okay.
in quotes because,
Right.
when you're in non duality, it could seem fun. to incarnate into a system of duality, and outside of the body, outside of the third dimension, we are in non-duality.
Yeah, so I could imagine myself being like, "Oh, that sounds fun," like for
Exactly.
one
Yeah.
lifetime. Uh
one
but
one lifetime.
or whatever. I don't know. It's
I think
not that.
no, part oh god, you've had so many lifetimes in
Oh,
duality.
really?
Oh yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
I don't know anything about it.
Yes.
I
I mean,
feel like it
you're
like
not new. You're certainly not new to this world.
oh, really?
That's clear to me. Yes.
Oh, okay. I thought like the it feels like the first time to me. I'm like every day feels like the first day. Every thought but
Mm,
I'm a very present person, so everything is like the first time and I'm like, "Oh my god, the dog still likes me today. Oh my god, like squirrels are still getting nuts, you know?" So I don't like yeah, every day seems totally brand new to me. I don't know why. Um
that's so your fairiness. You definitely
okay.
bring just this, like, it's a sense of magic
Oh, cool.
and wonderment,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
wonderment.
So that's not from being a first time. That's just
No, that's your love of this planet.
okay, cool. I do love it. I
You do,
really do.
right?
Um that's cool. So, okay, that really helps. I really appreciate that. That idea of the third dimension just kind of makes that. And it's a byproduct of it and that makes so much sense to me. I didn't understand cuz also just recently heard that and maybe you can help explain this, but so you choose to be here and you do you choose your astrological sign and all of
Typically, you choose your birth date and your planets and the alignments and all of that. Mm, and there's some wiggle room there, right? Like
yeah.
sometimes, like I just met a woman whose child was born 3 weeks early, and my sense of that was, well, that's because he really wanted to come in on
Yeah.
that alignment, right?
Yeah.
But those things all are very flexible as you're
Right.
preparing for your incarnation. And one of the things that changed on the winter solstice of 2012 when it comes to choosing our incarnations is an issue around suffering.
Okay.
So prior to the winter solstice of 2012, we built suffering into our lifetime experiences as teaching and evolutionary tools.
Okay, like karma and stuff?
Yeah, more like I'm going to choose to incarnate into a family and be abused because that will allow me to access a level of understanding about X, Y, and Z, and then I'll become this person.
That's what I was about to ask you in the next question. So thank you for answering
Yeah,
it early. Please continue.
I will. Yes. So what happened is we began to then expect suffering on this world.
Wow.
What
Yeah.
happened then is we began to believe that unless we suffered, we were not actually growing or evolving.
Wow. Yeah.
We got to the point now where we have understood collectively that all suffering gives us is more suffering. That's it.
Wow.
The thing that creates evolution is love,
Yeah.
right?
That's so cool. Yeah.
And joy,
Yeah.
and joy.
Yeah.
Right, and that is also some of the foundation of my work. Now, it's interesting because prior to the winter solstice of 2012, I would have flat out told you, "Oh, your abuse was there because you planned it, so you could
Yeah.
become the person you want to be." And what that would have done is it would have given you some mental soothing, mental healing, right? Like,
Right.
that makes sense to me. I
Right.
feel better, but you don't actually feel better from that, right? That doesn't address your emotions. It doesn't address underlying trauma. It doesn't address the way trauma expresses itself in the body
Yeah.
in the form of illness or addiction or anything, right? It doesn't address any of that. It's just a nice thought.
Right.
When the winter solstice of 2012 happened and all of these contracts expired, this contract around suffering expired.
Wow.
So just now it's taken me a few years to
Yeah.
integrate this, right? Because I'm 54 years old. It is
Yeah.
there's a lot of decades believing my suffering served me, right?
Yeah.
And I
Totally.
suffered as a kid. So it was
Sorry.
very relieving for me initially to believe that my childhood abuse made me the healer and guide I am.
Yeah.
And then, man, 2020, right?
Yeah.
It just brought home so many expanded truths to me. And one
Yeah.
of them is that I am not who I am because of my suffering. I'm who I am despite of my suffering.
Right. For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And I wonder, like, who would I be if I hadn't suffered? How much more help could I be? How much more service could I do if I weren't carrying with me the trauma connected to my suffering? So I think this is a part of that shift that we're going through. And so we're seeing it in our bigger systems, right? I mean,
Right.
you look at the Black Lives Matter movement, like, holy shit, collectively, we're saying no.
Yeah.
I mean,
Totally.
yeah, there are still, the beings who are running such distortions of fear that their
Yeah.
hatred is blinding them. They exist. We clearly saw that last year and continue to see
Right.
it. But the majority of our worldwide population is moving away from suffering.
Yeah, totally. I That's awesome. I mean, I do think, or the way that I kind of have been looking at that is um like how just like millennials kids now are kind of just like, no, like, no, we don't, like, they don't see limitations on their power the way that like our generations did. And also gender, all of these things where it's like, you're this, you have to be this, you are acting too much like this, like, and the whole duality stuff seems like it's going away. And it sucks that we had to have the abusive part and the suffering, but I think it needed to maybe have that in order for us to have kids and teach kids and have a new generation of people that are like, I would never do that, or whatever it is. It's like where we thought we needed to do something, live a certain way because that's what used to be right. It's like those ideals are going away, and it sucks that we had to do it. But it seems like we are helping everyone else kind of like put their foot down and be like, this is my space, like, I'm not going to be small, like, standing up for what we need. And these things are not true. There is no, like, these systems don't work at all. They've never worked. It's not, they're not gonna work, like,
Oh,
because
they
they,
work. They work. They
right,
work to support the 1%.
right, exactly.
They work to support the power structure. They
That's
work
exactly.
exactly as they were designed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
So,
yeah.
yeah, the teardown is the, death to the patriarchy and a
Yeah.
shift out of the oligarchic, right, dynamics and paradigms we have going on even in this country. It's time.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, I feel like it's happening. I mean,
It
I
is.
do. Yeah, I
It
feel
is
like it.
happening.
Okay,
It is.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, cuz
Yes.
it's people are starting to, I think, I mean, I thought it would look a little bit different, but
Yes.
it seems like this was a this last year was an opportunity. While it was a lot of horrible stuff, one thing, it was an opportunity for people to be like, my body it matters in the way that it's real right now, and it can affect the lives of others. And like, I
Yes.
think just sitting with that, I know that it didn't hit everyone, but I think enough people kind of saw that. And like, um although it's very weird what's going on with how many people don't see it that way, I feel like enough people have now started moving towards wanting to improve themselves and the way that they love themselves. And I think that that's like obviously the first step towards all this. But
Absolutely. It's a very confusing time and
yeah,
I'm definitely like, I advocate that COVID is real. It is happening. I've lost people to it. I know
I'm
many people who
sorry.
have, thank you. I know many people who have lost people to, I lost my first love to COVID. So
Aw.
hearing about that was really disorienting, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Um I mean, at some point, I probably wished him dead when we were younger,
Yeah.
because who doesn't with your first love?
Yeah. That's
Oh, that
fair.
that was dark, man. I
No,
just went dark.
that's okay. Everything's okay.
So I've right away. I knew about the pandemic before it happened as well. I was working on Bernie Sanders' campaign.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
I worked for
Yay.
I worked for both of his presidential campaigns
Aw.
as a full-time volunteer both times, working many more hours on his campaign than my own work even during those
Thank
years.
you
But
for doing that.
thank you. But that is my work, right? I don't see a
Yeah.
differentiation between my work as a channel supporting integration and reascension and the
Yeah.
truth of oneness, and Bernie Sanders, who supports public policy that embody oneness,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So back in the fall of 2019, I was working on it as campaign, and my husband, so I'm bi. I'll just share that because I referenced my ex-girlfriend. Now I'm
Okay.
referencing my husband, but I like to claim that publicly because I think the more
Cool.
of us who claim our sexual identities publicly that are different from a dualistic interpretation of sexuality, right?
Yeah.
The easier it is for everyone else to
Thank you
claim
for
theirs.
sharing. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's awesome.
So he said to me, right, do you think Bernie's going to win the primary? And I just said, no, I think that there's going to be a pandemic, and it's, it's, it's going to, we're not going to go the Bernie Sanders way. We're going to go death and destruction.
Yeah.
And then I completely forgot I said it.
Yeah.
And 4 months went by, and
That's
COVID started, and initially I was like, whatever, we've been here before,
yeah.
right? SARS and Ebola, blah 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 blah. And then when Newsom announced the California schools were closing, I was like, oh my god, holy shit, this is it.
Yeah.
This is that pandemic.
Did you know that psychically, or did you channel that, or
That's a great question.
if you
I-
can differentiate?
yeah, I can differentiate. Yeah,
Okay.
that was more a psychic that was a psychic moment.
Yeah. And can I just ask you a fun question, I guess, is I mean, you knew that and you predicted that, but did you, like, I woke up on January 1st, 2020, and I was like, this is a different place. This is gonna be the best year ever. This is the most energetic I have ever personally felt. I was energized, excited. Every single day was filled with synchronicities. I saw every 11, 2, 2, everything was just like, hello, we're here. Like, I mean, just like probably how your life is, but I think most people don't have that, where it's just like you pick up the phone to text someone, they're texting you about, just every single thing. Every dream was just like, um I had like other people's dreams, and I would call them and be like, hey, I had your dream last night, and just like, I was just like, this rules. Like, I love this energy. um and then, yeah, I just, did you have an
No.
energetic okay.
Nope, because
Okay.
that I feel like that was yours personally, and it's funny when you talk
Okay.
about how that must be what my life is like my life is so fucking normal, right? Like, I mean, yeah, I hope it's okay to swear on your show. I think it is. I have telepathic transmissions with people, right? And
Yeah.
my dogs, and
Yeah,
right, but
yeah.
it's very normal. I mean, I'm very Midwestern and
Yeah.
quote unquote normal.
Right. Well, I just mean, yeah, just
I
when
know what you mean.
yeah, just like
It's
tapped in. It
But I
felt
do think
good.
people have that perspective about me, right? That I'm
Yeah.
living a different life. No, I'm very, like, I do the dishes and my laundry. I remember once I was closing out. I started my career as a channel, right? Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I would do tarot card readings at the metaphysical bookstores in Chicago. I was $1
Cool.
a minute tarot card reader, right? And one night I said to someone, she said, what are you doing after work? And I said, I got to go home and do my laundry. She's like, God, couldn't you have said you were like going to go do a spell? Or I'm like,
Yeah.
but that's not the truth, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's part of oneness as well, is really seeing. I mean, you know this about the entertainment industry, right? Seeing people that we see as special, seeing them
Yeah.
also completely as human.
Yeah. I tend to see everyone as super special. You know, like
I
I
do
mean,
too.
yeah.
Or see everyone, then everyone is super special, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
Um
but without differentiating, right? If
yeah.
right,
No,
yes,
it's just
because we
funny.
are all super
Yeah.
special.
Yeah.
And and yes, in my personal life, I absolutely benefit from living in a more consciously connected way. Of course I
Yeah.
do, right?
Yeah.
Like that's true for all of us. Okay, I was saying something about oh, at the beginning of 2020, yeah, I feel, there was an astrological event that happened at
Yeah.
the beginning of 2020, on January 12th. I was just looking at it because I knew we were going to talk about it. The conjunction of Capricorn and Pluto, oh no, the conjunction of Saturn and Pluto in Capricorn, right? So
Yeah.
I knew coming into 2020 that it was going to be a really challenging year
Okay. That's crazy.
because it was all about that conjunction, that astrological event is all about challenging the power structures.
Oh, wow.
And not only did we have the pandemic to contend with in 2020, but we had the election, which,
Yep.
like, I remember in October of 2020 into the first couple weeks of November, I felt like I was being completely compressed
Yeah.
by the energies of both the pandemic and the election. I
Yeah.
had never experienced that kind of feeling in my life before.
Yeah, totally. I was sick for 6 months.
Oh, wow.
Cuz I know what you mean though. It like I
Yeah.
just I just took everything and like swallowed it and put it in my stomach, and different parts of my body like hid it at the bottom of my finger, or hid just like spent the whole time like placing emotions in my body so I wouldn't have it in my head. And I got sick, which is so wild that it, the emotions are real, and like you have to process them.
You
And
do.
it's not possible really, or we've not ever, I don't think our body is meant to process that much fear and intimidation for that long. Like every day of that year was,
Sustained
yeah,
trauma.
yeah, that, and the president, and just and being able to, um for me, I yeah, I became addicted to being like, I can't believe he just said that, this is worse than yesterday, I can't, and just
Mm,
getting in that cycle of
mm.
like, yeah, and just, I mean, it was, that's interesting that it was, I could like a planetary, or there was a
Oh,
map
yeah.
for that, because it just, to me,
Yeah.
I was like just stuck in the mud, like up to here, just like, oh my god, like why is this happening? And just like, and then yeah, even when he got coronavirus, I was like, one of the worst days for me, because I was
Mm,
just like, at that point I was like, I can't take this anymore, like it's,
mm,
consuming me, or just like, um it just felt like, too, for some reason that day was like where I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. Got really drunk, and
mm.
like, and then was just got
And
sick.
left.
Yeah,
Right.
and yeah, and then it was just,
Disassociated. Yeah.
and then when I like woke up, it was like, oh, you're just sick now. You're gonna be sick for like 6 months.
Wow.
It was crazy, but yeah. How did you take care of yourself?
I went into ultra caretaking and helper mode.
Okay, that's a good way to do it.
So
That's a,
I spent and have spent
yeah.
the large part of the last year on social media, on Facebook specifically, helping as many people as I can through both the pandemic, um, the infiltration of QAnon and cult thinking into the New Age and spiritual communities, which has been devastating
Ugh, I didn't
to.
even, that I couldn't even, like, I'm sorry that you had to even know what
I
any of that stuff means.
Yeah, I became aware of it almost immediately. I had a friend tell me about it back in late 2017,
Oh
QAnon.
my god.
So
I'm so sorry.
oh, thanks. I immediately knew what it was. I knew it was a complete psychological operation being used to try to manipulate and control via fear using, Christian Christianized retelling rapture stories. And it's amazing to me how many in the New Age community got hooked by it, and hooked by this idea that, you know, Trump was some kind of savior that was going to lead everyone to the fifth dimension. So their
Oh,
interpretation,
that's
oh,
what it is?
oh, that's one of the stories. It
Wow.
depends on whatever your personal belief system is. There's a version of QAnon for you that works for you.
Oh, okay, cool.
Because yeah, it's like the
Cool.
multi-level marketing of cults, right?
Wow.
So,
Maybe I should look into. I just was like, nope, that's not like
yeah,
nope. But wow,
I
amazing.
felt tasked to debunk it.
No, thank
And
you. Somebody had to. I'm sorry I couldn't help.
oh, well, yeah, and there were a lot, so
Yeah.
many people. There are still a lot. It really hasn't
Jesus.
gone away because, the belief systems are still there, but that 5D ascension story
Right.
is that, the good high vibe people are going to go to the good place,
Right. Wow.
and the normies who didn't get red pilled and can't deal with,
Right.
uh, raising their consciousness are going to just exist in hell. So, I mean, it's
Jesus.
just a retelling of the rapture, right?
That's so
So,
weird. Right.
yeah. And
Well,
then there's this whole, there are whole, there are channels who are supposedly channeling Pleiadians with all of this 5D ascension, all of these stories that are so completely ungrounded and disempowering, right? Because
yeah.
the story always is some other great being is going to come along and save you all, and that
But
not that that's not what we're doing here.
yeah, but none of the other beings would tell us that, right? Or I guess maybe there's some that
Oh, there are definitely some trickster
okay.
beings that,
Okay.
yeah, right?
Okay.
Like trickster beings that hang out in the fourth dimension,
Okay.
that just want to create a mess,
Okay.
right?
But okay, so I guess the way I could say it is that if anyone is telling you that anything outside of you is needed for you to change, they're lying or they're trying to trick you.
I would say they are their own filter believes that,
Oh, okay.
right?
Okay.
Because as channels, you know, we're not just conduits, we're also filters. You know that as a songwriter, right? It
Okay.
comes through you, but it comes through your beautiful, very specific consciousness,
Okay.
which is the filter for
Okay.
what you're accessing, right? So for me, it's the same. So as my filter and awareness shifts and grows, my channeling changes, right? Like my first understanding of reascension, and I like to call it reascension because we didn't start in the third dimension, right? We started as source energy. We started as
Yeah.
the highest. Well, we've already been as high as you can get. Like we just
Yeah.
are. That's the truth of who we are.
Yeah.
Reascension is first, I thought, oh, I see. Humans and Earth are going to travel to the fifth dimension together. But I
Right.
really logically
Yeah,
could
yeah.
not figure out how that fucking was going to happen, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
there was
yeah.
no, now I'm like, oh, I see. We are integrating a fifth dimensional consciousness. And the way to do that is by healing trauma that sits in our lower chakra systems that prevents us from accessing our fifth dimensional consciousness,
Yes.
right? So it's this very embodied healing work that's happening within each of us, and then it's also happening for the planet.
Right.
So there is a fifth dimensional consciousness already existing within the third dimensional consciousness of Earth that will emerge, as that consciousness will emerge through us. So I see us all right now as somewhere on the line of having blended third
Right.
and fifth dimensional identities and consciousnesses
Oh, I
in our
love
own
that.
bodies, right? So I'm
Yeah.
very aware when I'm more Nora, and I'm very aware when I am more my higher self, right? And then I'm
Right.
very aware when I'm operating in this very kind of blended way where, Nora is allowing the support of my higher self to take me, and that's what you're talking about with the synchronicities and all the magic, right? It's
Yeah.
that blending of these identities.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. So I guess what oh sorry, were you gonna say something?
We can keep going. I mean, I'm noticing the time and we're so good with
Oh
time.
yeah, do you
So
have to go?
I have nowhere to be.
Okay, well I'll just ask you a few more questions, if that's okay.
Take your time. I have nowhere to be and I don't
Well,
feel like we're done yet. So
oh, okay, cool. Yeah, me neither. I guess like do you it's see I really that resonates with me a lot. I feel like the I feel like the journey or the process of healing trauma, I
mm,
feel like is a little bit maybe confusing for some people.
mhm.
Can you explain, like, is that meditating and
Or
something
therapy, right?
therapy?
I'm
Yeah.
a huge advocate of traditional third dimensional ways at healing trauma.
Yeah.
I think I've developed energetic process for the healing of trauma
Okay.
that I can share with you. Because it's very simple and quick to do, and it's something I freely give to anybody that I possibly can.
Okay,
So
cool.
it is the foundation of my operate from joy belief system, which is
Cool.
right. So if you have trauma sitting in your lower chakras, more often than not, we are operating from our trauma, right?
Yes.
Unless we put our conscious attention on what we're actually feeling, work with our feeling states and gain clarity, and then we can get more specific on what we're operating from. And that affects then what we experience in our lives. That affects our reality and how we experience reality, right? So even
Yes.
this belief on our identities as creator beings has shifted in me a bit over the last year or so. I would say, you know, going back a few years, I would have said, oh, yeah, every single one of us are creating every single moment we experience within the context of collective humanity and collective consciousness, and everything is a collaboration and a co-creation. And right, you're never a victim, right? I would always say you're never a victim. Yeah, I really can't say that in good conscience any longer, that you're never a
Okay.
victim. There are absolutely victims out in this world. And when I trained in child sexual abuse prevention, which I did in my 20s prior to becoming a channel and a healer, I was trained that the first thing you say to a child who is sexually abused is, I am very sorry that happened to you. And that is absolutely the appropriate thing to say to anyone who has experienced trauma, to honor that moment when they are a victim. Because the victimhood, the victim role, it is real. It is not an illusion. It is a real
Right.
experience on planet Earth. And again, that goes to our earlier conversation about suffering, right? So if you're creating everything, then you're never a victim, then my suffering is all good, right?
Yeah.
And then you're just high. You're not
Yeah.
in your body dealing with your stuff.
Yeah.
So I I don't even remember how this, I think it just came out in a transmission one day. We were talking about trauma. The Pleiadians were sharing about trauma, and they gave me this process for the facilitation of transmuting untransmuted trauma, specifically untransmuted trauma from other lifetimes.
Okay.
So when we activate past life trauma, that can be difficult to deal with in a traditional therapeutic setting, because most traditional therapists aren't talking about reincarnation and past lives, and right. So this process can work on facilitating trauma from this life, certainly, but it also then goes to helping with other lifetime trauma that's still affecting us in this lifetime, that we're still using as a driver for the creation of our reality. So it's a system I've given the acronym of FOL: feel, observe, accept, and love, right? So the first
Cool.
step is you give yourself permission to just feel whatever it is that wants to be felt in your body, emotionally, physically, mentally, even though those aren't really feelings. I still include mentally because, boy, our heads, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Our heads give me a conga trauma train into
Yeah.
infinity, right?
Yeah. For
So
sure.
energetically. So the first, so you just feel fully without judgment that which there is to be felt. So there are no good emotions, there are no bad emotions. There's just, ah, this is what I'm feeling, right? So sadness, anger, these are not lower vibrations, these are not lower emotions. They're just feelings like everything else, right? And then the second step is to begin observing yourself as you're feeling. So when you start to observe, that's the bringing of the fifth dimensional consciousness online from within, i.e., support, greater support. So you're feeling and yet observing yourself in the supporting space, which then allows you to go into total self acceptance. I am perfect exactly as I am feeling whatever it is I am feeling right in this moment. I accept myself exactly as I am, which then begins an automatic transmission of unconditional love that starts to run in the field, and that's the healing piece, right? This is the
Yeah.
the trauma transmuting piece. It then starts to replicate, and it goes to all of these other yous on all of these other timelines and all of these other lifetimes that experienced similar events and similar trauma, and those past life versions receive healing they could not receive in that life for one reason or another, which then affects you in this moment moving forward, right? Then you're able to more easily operate from joy as
Yeah.
opposed to anxiety, right?
Right. Yeah. That's my one. It's
Anxiety.
anxiety.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah,
me
which
too.
is weird because it's not mine. I mean, whatever, but I would just say I'm just experience I am like a sponge,
Yes.
just a sponge, and I have somebody else's feelings in my stomach
Mm.
because I don't even, yeah, I have it's, yeah, I would like someday to get rid of that, or you
I
know.
would say, for you, you're very empathic, absolutely, right? So you feel other people's feelings as if they are your own
Yes.
and cannot then differentiate between sometimes actually what is Bonnie's and what is someone
Yeah,
else's.
no, I cannot. Yeah, I don't always.
You do it in part because you desire to be of service, because you're a healer,
Yeah.
which you are, clearly. Healer, guide, musician, right?
Yeah.
Activist, all
Yeah.
of it. You're all of
Yeah.
that. And that doesn't mean you have to go learn Reiki and put your hands on somebody, right? You're a healer just as you are, Bonnie.
Yeah.
Use the analogy for yourself of shifting from being a vacuum cleaner to a leaf blower, right? Because you are
Whoa.
walking around hoovering up all the caca all around you, right? Because you want to fix it. But you
Yeah.
cannot fix other people's shit in your own body, right? That
No.
it just makes you want to leave, right? It
Yeah.
makes us
That's
all want to
so
just
cool.
disassociate and go sit on a cloud,
I'm gonna write that down. Leaf blower. That's so cool. I thank you so much. That is awesome because do want. I don't. I don't want people. I just see. I know people don't even realize that they're spinning out, and I
right?
just like want to just like help and stuff. But it's like it doesn't. It's it's not helping what I'm doing. I'll say that.
Yes.
It's
Well, the
not
way
really
you can help is to just breathe some golden light into your crown and your heart and then exhale it out the palms of your hands like a leaf
cool.
blower.
Yeah, I
Do
love
that
that.
enough, you'll reverse your flow. You won't have to put your attention on it any longer.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna write that down too. Thank you.
Yes. You're also a leaf blower just automatically in your music, right? You can't help but do it there,
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know if that's also in a weird way, or that's like a lot of people like, oh, that because I'm really shy. Like I'm a super shy person, and I don't like talking in public and stuff. But
you're
people
so good at it.
are thanks. So people are like, how do you go on stage if you're shy? And I was like, that's how shy I am. I actually need people to like clap for me so I know that I'm okay. Like that, it's just an indication of how little I am, not how big I am. But yeah, it's funny. That's my time to be like, am I okay, guys? Am I okay? Are
Yeah.
we okay? But yeah, it's getting. This has been a good. I mean, having a 14 months 16 months from doing that part of my existence is is I'm it's good to be able to see what that did do, and also just that physically, because I was like, super depressed and just like, oh, I hate everything. I don't know what to do. Maybe I'll exercise. Maybe I'll run. Maybe I'll do like all these things. And it was like, no, the physical activity you love. It's playing music. Like you can still do that. But I forgot about it. And I was just like, I guess I'll lift weights, or just, I had some sense that I was supposed to do something physical, but I couldn't remember what it was. And then when I remembered, I was like, oh, I love life. Okay. Like, but yeah, it's hard. But can you talk to me about Atlantis? Because that just keeps on coming up. And
I was just going there.
yeah, please.
So when you asked earlier about duality,
Yeah.
so my recollections and it's mostly come from my own memory, but some of this has come through via channeling. Um, my recollections is that the fall of Atlantis was really created by the split between the divine masculine and the divine
Okay.
feminine energies on this world.
Oh, that's amazing. That makes so much sense. Thank you.
So what's happening today is we're actually in a process of reunification,
Cool.
right? So even though it looks like there's all this separation and hatred, and there is, it's not new.
Yeah.
It's been here forever
Yeah.
since the fall of Atlantis. We recently magnified some things so we could see it more clearly,
Yeah.
and we're in the process now of reunifying.
Yeah.
I used to perceive that Atlantis fell due to a split between spirituality and science.
Oh, okay.
Like when I first started remembering and channeling, what I remembered was those who were doing spiritual work and working with crystals and their own inner technology, right? Were in this big battle with those who were using science and external technology. And there was this battle for power between the white robes and the dark robes, and the gray robes were in the middle, right? It was very that was my first kind of remembrance of it. But that's all really just a metaphor for the divine masculine and the divine feminine.
Wow.
And I remember back then, so this was back in early 1997, thinking to myself, I cannot ever dismiss science in this life as a channel,
Right.
which is fascinating. Then when the pandemic happened, I immediately went into like exactly the 3D science of it,
Yeah.
hardcore. And I am a huge proponent of alternative forms of healing and medicine, right? Like I had a gallbladder attack 6 years ago and healed my gallbladder on my own
Oh, wow.
using diet and energy work and yoga and healing some underlying trauma. When the surgeon was recommending I have surgery, right, I said no, I'm going to go home and handle this myself, right? So I'm a huge proponent of avoiding
Yeah.
Western medicine at all costs,
Yeah.
actually. And I have had terrible experiences with doctors. And, part of
I'm
that is
sorry.
just the
So,
destruction of our healthcare in this country due
yeah.
to the insurance companies and
No.
money
Yeah.
and
It's
corporate
bodies. Yeah.
corporate greed, right?
Yeah.
I, I'm
That's
I'm with
not a.
Bernie.
Yeah.
Healthcare is a human right. That's it. Not a
Absolutely.
privilege, right?
Absolutely.
But when the pandemic happened, I was like, "No, I'm with science all the way on this one." Right?
Yeah.
Like And that doesn't mean all the scientists know everything yet. That's the
No.
point of science. It
Yeah,
evolves, right?
yeah. Well, it's they're the ones doing the work, and
Mhm.
you know what I mean. Like they're
Yeah.
actually doing the work on that specific thing, and there was other countries and certain precedents set that were like, oh yeah, there's something else I can check in on. I think, um, yeah, I think that that's fair. I think that that's fair to treat. I think it's fair to look at science. It doesn't, and you're. It's also on the 3D experience. Science is right. Like that's not wrong. It is right. It doesn't mean it's the only thing that's right, but it is a thing to look at. That's how I perceive
Ye-
it, at least.
yes, and it's right in the moment until a scientist asks a new question and they find a new answer, right? And
Yeah,
that's evolution. It's the
yeah,
process of third dimensional evolution. So I expect that our scientific experience here on Earth will evolve as we all are integrating our fifth dimensional consciousnesses, because it's not only the channels and the healers and the creative types, everyone is integrating our fifth dimensional consciousness, right?
right.
So we're like, we just had this 60 minutes thing on
Yeah, I was just about to
disclosure,
ask
right?
you about that.
Yeah.
Like, do you have any um that's funny. Do you have any sense, or have you been told anything about I mean, I just don't I about this topic is I don't it's not breaking news. It's just it's not anything new, but I mean, it's a pretty big deal. Obviously, it's a
What's new? Here's
yeah.
what's new is that the government has finally said, yeah, we don't know what the fuck it is.
Yeah, but is I know. And but so are they like the shift of reality has started with that. I think there's a shift in reality which is going to be huge, which is these beings are uh don't use science the way we know it, and are psychic, and all of these things, everything that what it like. Do you have a sense um that this is like, I don't know, I guess positive inherently, or evil, or like, are people gonna be okay? Is the government gonna mess this up for everyone? Like, I think it's such an opportunity for positivity and integration, and um, healing, and people to become their true selves and become one. But I'm a little scared, like that.
Well, unfortunately, it's being framed as a fear based narrative,
Okay, but yes, yeah,
right? It's
yeah,
being like, oh, this could be something to be afraid of, right?
yeah,
And that's, pop culture is filled with fear based narratives.
right.
I think that disclosure and reascension have nothing to do with one another.
Okay, okay,
However, as we integrate our fifth dimensional consciousness, we will expose ourselves to more expansive ideas and understandings about reality, and an understanding of ourselves as not just earthlings, but as galactic beings, right?
yeah,
Part of a galactic reality, a
yeah,
universal reality. But when I talk about channeling the Pleiadians, I'm not talking to beings who are in physical bodies sitting on another planet.
yeah,
Right. And there needs to be, I think, a big distinction that people understand and draw between what is calling itself an extraterrestrial collective, which is really just a guiding force for beings who were once extraterrestrials,
yeah,
right? That's my interpretation of the 12th dimensional Pleiadians that I interact with and engage with. They're not actually Pleiadian.
yeah,
Their energy, their vibration is connected to beings who were at one time physically incarnate as Pleiadians in the Pleiades star system.
right,
But I am not in contact with beings in the Pleiades star system, right? Like, I actually
yeah,
wouldn't want that.
yeah,
And the thing that I am always aware of is if a being has a physical form, then a being has physical needs.
right.
So I,
Interesting.
I'm less interested in connecting with aliens in bodies, right? Than
Yeah,
I
no,
am,
I can
right.
understand that.
And I've had some experiences and memories of, I've certainly seen my share of ships, but I've also seen my share of beings posing as ships, right?
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
I once saw a Zeta Reticula gray alien, that's what we know them by, right?
Yeah.
Standing in the corner of my yard. And I very quickly realized he was a holographic projection. He was not actually physically there. And the way
Yeah.
I knew he was a holographic projection is because my neighbor's cat ran right through
Wow.
his
Oh my
projection
god.
and got rid of him for me.
Wow, that
But
is incredible.
he wasn't here to cause harm. He was observing. And of
That's
course, we're being observed by other beings.
yeah. Yeah.
And frankly, I think most of them really don't want to engage with or interact with the humans on Earth until we come together because we're too much in conflict here.
Yeah.
They don't want
Yeah.
to jump in.
Yeah, no, we don't seem yeah, I don't think we seem chill or like safe to talk to. I think we seem like really confused, inarticulate, like reactive, like also probably emotional. I think all those things might make us look interesting from far away.
Mhm.
I think we must look really fun from far away, but I think we probably seem really scary from up close. Not like because we're powerful, but just because we're so um, reactive and you know.
What what you just described there was exactly how we experience incarnating, right? It seems really fun
Yeah,
from
yeah,
far away. And then
yeah,
we get here and we're just freaking terrified as we're
yeah.
on the roller coaster of emotion that is planet Earth.
Totally. Well, I think we're going to need to have a part 2 here if that's okay with you.
Yeah,
I don't feel like this is I feel like this is we could do this forever and I would like to have a part 2 if you are down with that. Um
absolutely.
cool. Can you tell people about you and about what what you would like to share about you, your website and such, information on how to find you and reasons why they should find you.
Yes. So my website is
Sorry.
Nora. It's okay.
Sorry, I haven't quite nailed that one yet.
Oh, it's funny. My husband and I are workshopping a podcast right now
Oh,
ourselves.
cool.
Yeah,
Awesome.
we have not launched it. Yeah. And
You'll
we're
be
going
great
through
at
this
that.
workshopping thing and
Yeah.
like, right
Yeah.
at some points we're just like, oh, no, this like, no, we can't like stop interrupting me, right? Like if we put out into the world right now, I mean, some of it is so great. Some of it is just fighting, the two of us fighting about how to actually do a
I
podcast.
think that that's important content too. That sounds
Oh,
amazing. I would totally listen to that.
yes, we'll include the fighting, or at
Okay.
least some of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because we're so programmed not to engage in conflict and not to fight, right? And
Yes.
Ron and I have definitely found fighting when done in a healthy way, right?
Oh
Health,
yeah.
yeah, is so useful, so
Yeah.
incredibly useful.
For sure. Yeah, yeah. For sure. I haven't yet found that type of relationship, but I'm
Mm,
excited to.
mm.
Yeah. Or the type where you can like you want to grow with someone and fight with them because you want them to grow. you
Yeah,
know.
we can talk about this in part two. He
Yeah,
and I
for sure.
He and I have been together for 22 years,
Oh
so
wow.
we have done a lot of fighting and
Yeah.
growing.
Yeah, I would love to talk about that for sure. Yeah.
Okay, so to find me, my
Yeah.
website is noraherold.com. I don't need to spell it right because you'll have it somewhere
Yes,
in
you
the
don't
yeah,
need to
okay,
spell it.
good.
Yeah.
And I'm available for a limited number of private sessions a month, but I also do broadcasts, usually twice monthly, transmissions and lectures and group sessions where, I'll spend a good half hour to 45 minutes in direct voice channeling, and then I take questions from the attendees and Those are always a lot of fun. And then I'm on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. And there aren't many Nora Herolds in the world, so I'm pretty easy to find.
Yeah, cool.
And YouTube, right? I've got a
Oh,
YouTube channel.
cool. Well, thank you so very much for coming here to this podcast. And I'm going to stop this and then I'm going to talk to you and we can keep talking. But thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Bonnie, so much for having me. You are a light and a beauty, and I love you.
I love you too. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to stop it.